Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming. This is the Brave House Immigration panel today, and I'm really excited to see some new faces, some familiar faces. Haven't seen some of you in years, so this is really exciting. My name is Lauren, and I am the founder of the Brave House. We are a nonprofit here in Brooklyn, and we provide free legal services to young immigrant women ages 16 to 24. We also do a whole lot of other things. We do holistic support, tutoring, English school, mentorship. We have some mentors in the house today. And basically, we're together co-creating spaces where young immigrant women can lead, thrive, and belong. So that's why we're here today, to really start to have more of a conversation around identity, bravery, resilience, self-care, self-love, all of these really important topics. So before we jump in, we're going to start the event the way we start every event. Who can guess? The Brave Oath! Yeah. So what we're going to do is I think I need to keep holding the mic in my hand, but everyone else, you can put your hands on your chest, make your mariposa hands. Yeah, butterfly, great. And just take a deep breath. Arrive in the space. Connect with your body. Maybe you feel your heartbeat on your hands. Okay. And this is an oath that we wrote together as a community, and we're going to use our collective voices now to set this intention for the space. So you're going to repeat after me. Today, I will be brave.
Today, I will be brave.
I will challenge myself to take chances.
I will challenge myself to take chances.
To find my voice and use it.
To find my voice and use it.
To see fear and keep moving.
To see fear and keep moving.
To be myself.
To be myself.
To love myself.
To love myself.
Because I am awesome.
Because I am awesome.
I am beautiful and strong.
I am beautiful and strong.
I am enough.
I am enough.
Exactly as I am today.
Exactly as I am today.
I am going to change the world.
I am going to change the world.
And I am just getting started.
And I am just getting started.
Yay. You can fly away. All right. Awesome. Thank you for doing that, and welcome to the community if that was your first time doing the Brave Oath. So before we jump in to the panel, we're going to take a moment to really create a warm, supportive space together. So the reason why this is so important is it's a tough world out there. So show of hands, I'm not going to call on you, but show of hands if you're going through something difficult right now in your life. Show of hands if you've gone through something difficult in the past 2 weeks. In the past year? Okay, that's pretty much everybody. So the point is we get to decide right now that we're going to create a space where we are all supported and welcomed and belong to be here. So you're going to take 5 seconds, and you're going to turn to a few different people, make eye contact, recognize the humanity and dignity of that person, and say, I am so happy that you're here today. Ready, go.
I'm so happy that you're here today.
I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you're here today. Okay. Sebastian. We're happy you're here today. All right. Awesome. And then the next part of creating this container, who here is either currently uncomfortable or has been uncomfortable with public speaking? At some point in their life. All right. Who here has ever done public speaking in a language that was not their first language? Oh, a lot of people. Amazing. So the point of that is we have these amazing panelists up here, and it is really brave and vulnerable to share a part of yourself, especially in a setting where there's like a microphone in your hand, even though we're trying to make it as cozy and comfy as possible. So we're going to take 5 seconds and we're going to show what it is to send like all of your support and your love to these amazing panelists. So that could be like Care Bear, love coming out of your stomach. It could be like an air hug, a smile, clapping, cheering. But 5 seconds of just like uninterrupted support to the panelists. Ready, go. You're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing. Yeah. All right. All right. Cool. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for indulging me. Okay, so we're going to get started. The flow of the panel is basically, it's going to be this. I'm going to introduce the panelists, and then we have some questions that I'm going to be asking, and I'll direct a question to a particular panelist, and then anyone else can jump in. If, this is such a small, intimate group, so if you have a really specific follow-up question or you feel really moved to share something from your own experience, just raise your hand and you can jump in. That being said, I'm a very full body yes type of person, you know this, but also love a no, so you don't have to answer any questions that you don't want to. You can pass on anything. You just being here is awesome. So, and at the end, we'll also open it up if people have questions as well. And then after, we're going to hang out and mingle, and we have some icebreaker questions and an activity in the back. So it's going to be a fun day. Cool. Ready? All right. So I am actually subbing in for Katia. Katia, many of you know, is our host for the Brave Pod, but she is sick today, so you're with me. So I'll introduce everyone who's on the panel. So I'll start with Tenzin, if you want to give a little wave. So this is Tenzin. Can I hear a hey, Tenzin? Hey, Tenzin. So Tenzin was born and raised in India and is of Tibetan descent. She speaks Tibetan, Hindi, and English. She went to St. Lawrence University to study economics and currently works in finance. Her passions include educating people on financial literacy and creating space for Tibetan Americans to speak about their experiences through the Positionality podcast. And Tenzin is on our app team. So, yeah, welcome, Tenzin. Hooray. Then we have Allyssa. Hey, Allyssa. Hey. We go way back. It's been a long time. So Allyssa was born and raised in the beautiful land of Antigua and Barbuda. Allyssa always had a passion for cooking and loved to see the joy her food brings to people. However, her spark came from her grandfather, who she calls Daddy Reg, who taught her how to make and execute their local dishes. She later migrated to the U.S. to pursue her career in culinary arts. Though the journey was a struggle, she has managed to gain lots of recognition in different places and is currently working at Times Square Edition Terrace and Outback Garden restaurant. Her goal is to one day become one of the top female chefs in a male-dominant industry. Look out, world. Chef Allyssa is a-comin'. So, hey, Allyssa. Yeah. All right, Yessi. Let's get up for Yessi. Hey, Yessi. Hey. So, after growing up in Mexico City, Yessi migrated to New York City with her family at the age of 7. She is the first member of her family to graduate from college and pursue a career in education. Her passions include skating on the weekends, dancing, writing, and expressing her creativity through arts and crafts. Hey, Yessi. Welcome, Yessi. And then our fourth panelist was going to be Mia, who many of you know. Mia is out sick today as well. So the wonderful Cristina is graciously just hopping right in. We also go way back. Cristina, we worked together at the Safe Passage Project, worked on lots of cases together. And do you want to give a little bio? Okay, cool.
Hi, guys. I was born in Mexico. Oh, I'm sorry. This one. Here we go. I get excited with the mics. I was born in Mexico City. I came with my mom to New York when I was 8, and I went to John Jay College to pursue a political science degree. And I am a mom of a 10-month-old baby. Her name is Alessandra. And I am hoping to one day go back to school, go to law school, and be an immigration attorney.
Awesome. Welcome, Cristina. All right. So we're going to jump in with some questions. So the first question is for Tenzin, and it's really about how do we carry identity with us wherever we go. I think a lot of us have identity that are rooted in different places, experiences, and it doesn't matter where we are in the world, we find ways to carry that with us. So for Tenzin, what are some ways that you engage with your Tibetan roots while in New York City? Are there neighborhoods, traditions, customs, food, anything that comes to mind?
Yes. So in New York City, there's a huge Tibetan community. We have around approximately 27,000 Tibetans in New York City, and a lot of them reside in Queens, New York. And in Queens, I would say the most popular neighborhood for Tibetans will be Jackson Heights. If you're taking the 7 train, it is the 74 Broadway. So for me, one way for me to engage with my roots is through food. I love food, and if I want to have a taste of Tibetan, I will just go to Jackson Heights, and we have bunch of Tibetan restaurants. So I love going there with friends, family, and just enjoy the delicacies of Tibet. And then we also have shops where you can try on Tibetan dresses, traditional dresses, and traditional kitchen appliances, very wood crafty appliances, and they're very pretty Tibetan carpets, wool carpets. So yeah, that's something I love to do in my neighborhood. And the other thing I also love to do will be just volunteering at the Tibetan places. So let's say I used to volunteer at the Tibetan school, and we have a Sunday school here. My mom also teaches there. She teaches Tibetan to Tibetan students. And yes, these are what I do in New York City. But on the side, me and my friend, she lives in Vermont. We also have a positionality podcast where we interview Tibetan people in North America, because we try not to interview people from Europe because we don't have experience with people in Europe. So we want to be mindful of our social background. And so that's why we interview people in North America and just kind of tell us about their experiences as immigrant in the United States as well as Canada. But yeah, that's how I stay rooted to my culture here in New York City. Yeah, thank you.
Can you share a little more about the food piece? Because I feel like you told us about a really cool thing in Jackson Heights. Yes. With a dumpling crawl situation, right?
Yeah. Yes. Every year they do have a dumpling crawl.
Is that really what it's called?
No, it's called momo.
Oh, okay.
Wow. So dumpling in Tibetan, it's called momo. So we have a momo crawl. I don't think they did it during the COVID, but they do it every year where you just buy a ticket and you get to go to each of the restaurants, get momo, and you have a book, more like a pamphlet where you rate how much you will give, what grade you will give it, and at the end they're gonna collect all the grades, and they're gonna award one restaurant as the best momo in New York City, and that restaurant gets a golden. It's like a structure, but a golden dumpling structure, a momo structure. So it's really fun. It's a fun way to engage. And also try actually dumpling from all these restaurants. Like you don't have to like buy a whole plate. You just get one piece from all this restaurant to try. So that's something I think everyone should like look forward to. It's really fun.
Sounds like a dream come true. Yes, that's amazing. Awesome. And anyone else, something come to mind about ways that you connect to your roots, stay connected to your roots while in a place like New York City?
Definitely food. I agree with you. Food and family gatherings. I feel like it makes you feel close to home. And I guess the holidays are like a big thing where we all gather and we celebrate with our traditional foods. Or like for us Mexicans, we just celebrated Day of the Dead. So putting the altar with my baby and my husband and putting all those pictures of our grandparents and family members who have passed. And the smell of the flour, the smell of the bread, all that combined, it gives you a pretty close feeling of home. So definitely the holidays.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, next question's for Yessi. So Yessi, I was wondering if you could speak to the intersection of immigration, self-care, and self-love. So what is... Sorry about that. What does that intersectionality look like for you? What are some ways that you engage in self-care, self-love practices?
I think it's a really loaded question because there are a lot of components to immigration that I think I'm still unpacking and learning about. I think to start off, just understanding that immigration's not beautiful. I think we tend to romanticize immigration a lot, and the reality is that it's really harsh. And personally, I hold privileges that other folks don't, and even that, as someone who holds DACA is on its last leg, doesn't necessarily mean that has opened up the opportunities that it says it has. And so I think I want to mention that because I have a way of being legally in this country allows me to get a job that then offers benefits. And the reason why I mention that is because without these benefits, I would have no access to going to the doctor, or, the most important for me is getting a therapist. And so it's been a lot of unlearning just what has been taught in terms of the identity of being undocumented, documented, and love. I think oftentimes normalizing the hatred, it's so much more easier. And it's something that I've had to unlearn and to work through. But for me, the way that I've been able to create that radical love for myself is really learning about how my journey as a 7-year-old affected me as an adult now, right? Mm-hmm. And then learning that through therapy, how did it affect my nervous system, and how does it still show up in certain spaces? And so I think it's been a lot of doing that work through different methods, whether it is doing my meetings with my therapist and talking about what are some things that come up today at home, at work, how to find stability in a space that hates me, right? Because maybe it's not so blatantly saying we don't welcome you in this country, but it's through policy. And so I think still continue to unpack that, still continue to find that love for myself is like digging through my bones, because it's really hard to find it. And I don't think a lot of people understand it the way that it's lived through. But I think one thing that has really helped me. And it's a huge privilege being able to connect to therapy, being able to sit down and unpack what does it mean to be abused, and to call your parents on stuff that was not okay for them to do, while also being mindful that they were just trying to do their best. I think a lot of that has been what's helped me recently. But also doing my work myself, right? Like being able to journal and using these different resources that I might not know were available. And so I find self-love through sitting with those feelings that come up and journaling. Dancing has helped a lot. I love dancing. I love going out. I think music is very liberating for the body. And connecting with community. I think for me that has been one of the most crucial things in my own journey, in my immigration journey, connecting to a community that might have similar journeys as you, because it's lonely, it's very lonely. And so I think it's crucial to find community to support you in the good and the bad and the ugly, while at the same time finding different avenues to create your own dream, to unpack a lot of what once was very sad. And so, yeah, I think those are some of the ways that I can find self-love. It's not easy. I don't think that it ever is, but I think the more you continue to pour into your cup, the fuller it gets. So, yeah.
Amazing. That was awesome. Beautiful. Anyone else want to add to that? That was a beautiful and powerful answer. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, this one's for Allyssa. Hey, Allyssa.
Hi.
So as Yessi spoke about, the immigration process, it can be very difficult. It can be very long. It's not even just about the legal status, what the journey means to people. It could be a lifelong journey. So I was wondering, could you speak a little bit about maybe like advice that you would give if there's someone in the audience going through that journey, someone who's watching this later, advice just from your own personal experiences of going through it?
Well, the first thing I would say, it is not an easy way. It's so difficult, and if you have to break down sometimes to just cry, I would just suggest you just cry. Just cry and let it out, because when you see other people like, oh, it just takes 8 months to a year and everything will be fine. No, it's taking more than 8 months to a year. It's taking your mental health. It's taking all your happiness. It just have you thinking, what is wrong with me? Why I'm not qualified to stay here like everyone else? What do I have to prove to other people in this country that I am as best or as good as everyone here? It just makes us feel like we're outcasts at some point when they like literally single us out in certain things. And it makes me wonder, why are they like scared of us or even get to know us as people? Because at the end of the day, we are all people. And not everybody's really from here. You may have migrated here or have kids here, which make them who they are. So the same how they can love another person from another country or love people within their families who are from a different country, what makes us so different? And I would tell anybody, you have to sacrifice a lot. You have to. You have to sacrifice sleep. You have to sacrifice days where you can just think about yourself, but you have to sacrifice basically, I would say basically everything. Because you're moving from what you're accustomed to something that you're not accustomed to. And it's good to feel uncomfortable here. Being comfortable makes you feel relaxed. It makes you feel like everything everything gets easier and you don't have to worry about anything. But being uncomfortable is something that we all need. And this journey is very uncomfortable. And it makes you want to work even harder than what you are. And it makes you want to push, and it makes you want to be on that top ladder looking down saying, oh my goodness, it all was for this reason. And you never know who you can inspire by getting to the top of that ladder. I have inspired a lot of people. And sometimes I wonder, how am I still doing it today? Because it was, Lauren, no. It was cryless days, sleepless nights, and even with school. School was really, really one of my breaking points throughout this journey, because I started, like I said, I moved here when I was 15, and a lot has happened, and I couldn't get back into high school. So I went to do a GED program, and within 6 months, I passed. I didn't expect to pass, but because I actually love school, so I was really delayed not to get out of school, because that was my safe place, and they accepted me as whoever I was. And when I graduated, I went into co-op tech, and they kind of wasn't really up to this undocumented, documented thing. So it'd be different ways where they would try to help me, and I had to really speak up. It was sometimes I want to keep it to myself, but it's who you tell and who you trust. Because some people who you really trust will actually help you throughout this whole process. But it's not everybody you should really share that with. You should know in your heart, if I can trust this person, might as well just open them and tell them the truth. I was honest with all my teachers. I was honest with, I would say, the secretary when she asked me certain questions. Because if the more you hide, it's basically you're hiding yourself. It's not my choice, but I had to speak up about it. So when I was honest with my teacher, I was placed into a cooking competition. I was so scared, but he said he saw something in me, and the light was always shining. It was like a little light, he said, but it was never, ever out. So that competition really took a lot from me, and I was qualified as one of the top cooking competitors, and actually got featured in a lot of stuff. But when it played down to everything, I didn't get the scholarship I wanted because I was an immigrant and I was undocumented at that time. They told me outright that that was the reason, but through all that fear and anger, I put it somewhere else. I got a full ride to Kingsborough College.
Hey.
And I got 4 different scholarships, and they were all cash scholarships. And I was so shocked that how it played out. Like I said, everything happens for a reason. Don't question however it happens. Everything happens for a reason. So when I started Kingsborough, it was my cash scholarship. Then I was like, oh my goodness, fast for tab, they're gonna ask for your social. I'm like, oh my gosh, what I'm gonna do? But then out of the blue, the DREAM Act came out. I didn't know anything about it, so I applied. Out of the blue, it covered the other half of my tuition with me enrolling into ASAP. And through all that journey, I graduated last year with an associate degree, a 3.8 GPA. Can't believe how I did it. And it's just really an amazing journey. And I am not gonna hide who I am. I tell everybody every day, I am from Antigua and Barbuda. I'm going to make it on top. And I will actually not be afraid to tell them anything and how this experience is. It's not an easy road, and I think we should start accepting that it may not ever get easy for us at this point. But when it really gets easy, we'll be more appreciative of all the trials and all the tribulations we went to. Because I am more, what you can say, more appreciative of all those hardships I went through. I'm actually grateful for all those hardships that I went through, because life itself is a piece of work. It's a piece of work. So just be grateful for those little dents and bumps in the roads, especially when it comes to this immigration process, because we all have a story to tell. And our story doesn't end with just a green card. It doesn't end with just a citizenship. It ends when we are able to say, I have done this and I'm still becoming something. And I think that's the end of everything.
So inspiring, Allyssa. Wow.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I have to say things now. I'm just like staring at you. I'm so inspired. You're amazing. Wow. Anyone else want to talk about their journey, the process, any advice that you would give to anyone else who's going through it?
Wow, that was heavy. It reminded me a lot of my own experience. Definitely hope, like sticking to hope. when my family came, well, when we came to the U.S., there was no formal relief for my family. So from when I was 8 until I was in high school, my senior year, that was when my dad could apply for a green card. And it didn't come until like 8 years after that. So it was a very long process. My biggest dream ever since I was a kid, was to go to college. I would be the first one in my family to go to college. And I envisioned myself sitting in class and, looking at my professor and kind of sharing with my family members, hey, I'm going to college. That was like the biggest accomplishment in my family. So I so look forward to it. So when the time came to apply to college, I couldn't fill in the social security number section. And I just left it blank. So the college advisor called me in and she said, well, I guess back then, we're talking about 2003, 2004, college advisors weren't really aware of all the different opportunities that an undocumented student could apply for, or just the different ways to go to college. And she told me, you just can't go to college because you're undocumented. Feeling defeated, I was like, well, I'm still gonna apply for these 3 scholarships that I think I qualify for. I applied. I got an answer back saying that I was denied because I didn't have a social security number, but otherwise that they would have granted them. Me still in the pursuit of trying to figure things out, because that's another thing you do when you're the oldest in your family, to navigate the system. You have to figure things out. And I'm sure you guys can agree with me. So I Googled different colleges in California. I'm thinking, well, California, maybe it's more immigrant friendly. So I sent a letter to Cerritos College. I sent them a letter asking them about the process of enrolling to their school, that I was undocumented. They surprisingly answered back and they said, I'm sorry, every state has different rules and state rules for undocumented students enrolling public schools. I had no clue what they meant by that. To me, it just meant that I couldn't go. And then, not giving up still, I went to LaGuardia College thinking, well, LaGuardia sounds Spanish, so they must be friendly. So I go to admissions office, and there was this lady there, and I asked her, I said, hey, I'm here to inquire about the enrollment for an undocumented student. And she said, well, can you type your social security number in this little pad? And I said to her, I don't have one. She looked at me and she said, well, you can go to school, you know that, right? And to me, that was the last try before giving up until I got my green card. So definitely know what you guys mean. Yeah, just staying with that hope and knocking so many doors, because you kind of, being undocumented for so many years, it pushes you to try and keep trying and trying to figure out. And yeah, it breaks your heart. And at night, there are definitely many tears, especially when you have to face the fact that you can't change your status. I mean, how are you going to get a social security card or a green card? You just can't. So after that, I guess the principal at my high school felt bad that I couldn't enroll in college with his limited knowledge too. And he gave me a scholarship, the principal scholarship, the only scholarship I was able to keep. And that's when I decided to go to trade school, and I went to beauty school, graduated from there. And then I opened my own hair salon at 19. Wow. Thinking, you know what, I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna work, have my own thing, and just wait for that green card, and then I can go to school. So I had that hair salon for 14 years. I closed it right before the pandemic started, which was a great move. So yeah, definitely knocking a lot of doors and waiting, just the waiting period. When I finally got the green card, the first thing I did was enroll in school. And you guys have no idea how happy I was the first day of school. I asked my parents to go and drop me off. So yeah.
And was that at John Jay?
No, that was at Kingsborough. 'Cause that was another thing. I had to start at Kingsborough, and then I transferred to John Jay. Yeah.
Wow.
So definitely hope.
Amazing. Thank you. Beautiful. Anyone else want to speak to the journey piece of it, or we can keep grooving along? And also, again, anyone else who wants to chat and share, you're welcome to. Keep grooving along? Awesome. Okay. We're going to chat about the concept of home. So we can kick this over to Tenzin, then maybe Yessi. What does home mean to you, that concept, and what are the practices, the values, what makes up home for you?
Right, when I think about home, I think about my family. So here in like New York City, like at least at my home, like we're not allowed to speak in English. We have to speak in Tibetan because they're like, oh, we have to maintain our culture, like keep learning it and like keep it alive. Because if you just stop speaking it, then it's just gonna go away. So again, like for me, home is like staying true to your culture, and of course, like adopting new cultures at the same time. So yeah, I think about my family when I think about home. I think about my community, like the Tibetan community here, when I think about home, and also like in the U.S. too, like everyone as well. Because so okay, one thing I think about is when I was in India, I was in a huge Tibetan community there. So yes, I interact with like Indians all the time because we have like a because I was in India, and but then but like the school I went to is all Tibetan. Like the area I was living in is like mostly Tibetan. So it's just like I was only interacting with that amount of people. And when I came to US, for me, I would say it's like a culture shock to see people from diverse background, because like I didn't really get to interact at all with people from diverse background in India. So for here and now, and being like in a high school here, and staying with like people, like interacting with people from like different backgrounds, it's been very like eye-opening. And like I am so grateful, like I get to be here to like experience that culture of like diversity. And like for now, that will also like it's also my home. So yeah, it's very broad, the meaning of home for me. Yeah, thank you.
All right. I think the way I envision home is a little bit more different than an actual place. I think there's a song, I don't remember the artist now, but Porque no soy ni de aquí ni de allá. And it's because I'm not from here or from there. And I think that resonates so deeply with my heart. Living here for 19 years, and having to struggle with basic rights and just not really feeling connected to my roots has made it really difficult to call this space home. And about less than a year ago, I got granted the opportunity to travel back to Mexico on advanced parole, and that in and of itself was like a whole thing because immigration doesn't make it easy. And so I had not been back in 19 years, and so it was a lot of feelings. There was sort of this duality of feeling thankful to seeing grandparents that I don't remember, streets that are so different, and also feeling really angry that I didn't get to be there for as long as I wanted to. And so I didn't feel like home there either, right? So I'm sort of questioning, so what does that mean to me? And the more that I grasp with that, the more that I search for that, that I long for that, I think the more I become my home, and what's sort of lives within me becomes, and it also flourishes, right? Like, I recently moved out on my own, and I can create my home to be my own space. And I think that is something that sort of my inner self, my inner child can finally do, that I didn't get a chance, right? Because it was hard. We lived in an apartment that was like really small and nobody really had a space. And so could I call that home? I think, like Tenzin said, is through family, through community, I've been able to connect. And so I don't necessarily see home as a space, because it can shift, it can change. But I think it's what you make of it, right? Like, with the people that are around you, with the people that you love. And I know for me, that's sort of been difficult to navigate, because you begin to unpack relationships, and relationships that necessarily don't serve your highest good. But I think the more I connect with my inner self, the more I dive into my inner self, the more I find a home, the more I can untangle who I am, who I wanted to be, even as a little kid when I didn't really understand it, and, had to be ripped apart from what I know to where I am growing now, to how I am now. It's sort of like this journey that just continues to go. So yeah, home can be a place, home can be food, home can be in family, but I think for me, it's been navigating that sort of peace within myself. So yeah.
Beautiful.
So.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we'll shift to a term that is equally as amorphous and difficult to define: bravery. So we're the Brave House. We talk a lot about bravery. That definition changes, I think, day to day, person to person. So for Cristina, I would love to hear, what does bravery mean to you? And do you have an example of bravery either in your own life or maybe in the life of someone else that you know, a brave moment you've witnessed either personally or externally?
Whoa. I think brave means, for me, it almost equals to hope, because you're hoping to something that you don't know, and you're just hoping for the best. So that requires to have some kind of strength to be brave enough to believe that it's going to get better, or you're going to find an answer, or you're going to get the chance. And as an immigrant, and as a woman, now as a mother, hope continues to be like the equalizer to being brave in my life. I'm grateful that I have met so many brave people throughout my life, and had it not been for them, I wouldn't be where I am now, mentally, intellectually, emotionally, and especially now as a mother, I see things from a different perspective. So I feel like I have an extra layer of sweetness, sabrosura. I had a friend who passed away due to cancer. Lauren, heard of her, and Loretta. She battled cancer for about 10 years, and she was given only a few months to live, and she was able to go 10 years. And I think the reason she was able to go further was because she had a daughter. And that was her biggest motor to continue pushing and fighting alive. So I think a lot about her when it comes to, when I think of bravery, just because it takes balls, excuse my language, to say, you know what, I'm not gonna die this month. I'm not gonna die next month. I have to be strong, and I want to see my girl grow a little older so that I could at least go knowing that she's not a toddler anymore. And whenever I asked her, hey, Telma, like, how are you feeling today? I'm okay, Chris. As long as my daughter is, growing and I have a few more hours, I am okay. And this is a person who was in pain, but there was nothing more than for her to see her daughter grow, and to have another day, another hour. So I think a lot about her because she never fell under the victim, mentality. And that's another thing too that I learned, as part of being brave, that as a kid I was unfortunately molested, so I never wanted to feel victim. I felt like by me victimizing my experience was extending the pain of what happened, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be brave. So once again, I've met a lot of people throughout my life that have shown me how to be brave. Yeah, I think I just said a lot of random things, but
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful answer. Thank you for sharing, Cristina. All right. Do you want to talk about bravery?
Yes.
Yeah, Tenzin?
I'm gonna speak about two different things. One thing I would say, for me, an example of bravery will be Tibetans who immigrated to India. So when we lost our country in 1959, around 100,000 Tibetans have to immigrate to India because there was a genocide in Tibet. So for them, it's they went to India, they don't know the language, they have nothing. So those are my grandparents. So they just started working as a construction, on the road. That's how they make money, and that's how they just started building a community there. And now we have a huge Tibetan diaspora community in India, and just we are keeping our culture alive, but also struggling to get the country back, which I know is so difficult. But we're still trying hard, and that's for me. They're really brave, to be able to do that in a foreign land. For me, my examples very simple, but for me, at least for me, the bravery is being able to speak my mind. So one example I can think of is in Tibetan culture, we have a huge respect for elders. It's a huge respect. You have to show huge respect, and I love that. It's I have no problem with that. But also sometimes it is like this. You're trying to talk and they say, oh, you're talking back. No, you're just giving your opinion. Yeah, you're just giving your opinion, your thoughts, and they just blandly stop you right there and say you're talking back. So one time, and I know it's so easy for us to stand up for ourselves in front of strangers, but not with our family members. So one time, it was one of my family member, and he goes, oh, you're talking back. And then I was simply having a discussion, so I just have to tell them, and I just took back and I was like, I appreciate your thoughts, but let me tell you one thing. I was just you tell us to because Tibetans, all the Tibetan parents, any Tibetan people, they will always push their kid to study hard because we don't have a land. So for this, it's we cannot compete with China, and we don't have that much population too to compete. So there's just all you can do is you can study hard and go from there. So Tibetan community, huge push towards education. So for me, all I was trying to tell him was, I said, you tell us to study hard, speak about your mind, and when I'm trying to speak at house, it's okay to do it outside, in front of UN, but when I'm trying to do it in the house, you're stopping me right there. So for me, it was just and I guess he understood what I was trying to say. So he's like, okay, I get it. Let's continue your talk now. So for me, that was a small thing, but I felt good about it. I felt I kind of stood above myself saying, you educate us to do this, and then we do it outside, very good, inside, not so good. So, we have to change it. So like also the speaking about your mind and like kind of like trying to push that change. If there's need to be in certain cultures, there's certain things about your culture is not good, be comfortable to like stop like practicing it. So yeah, that's what I can think about.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm saying, to me, what is it to be brave? I would say to be optimistic. We as people can sometimes be very close-minded. Me too. But that's also something I learned from my culture. We tend to just think one way and one way only. Like you grow up in the you grow up in the house with your grandparents. You think, okay, if my grandparents did this, we're gonna do that. Like for instance, politics. My grandparents are ABLP. Then you have, then my aunt will most likely become ABLP. Then my mom will do that. Then I will eventually, but I ain't vote because I don't do that. But it's like a consistent thing. You never really have that open-minded perspective from my culture. And when I came here, my mom had to tell me, I'm not there, so you got to figure this out on your own. She told me that. She said, you got to figure it out on your own and just don't always be the cultural way. Try to think outside the box. Try to be your own person, because she herself is one of those persons who can be closed-minded, but it's just funny how she pushed me to be open-minded and be open to worlds of different perspective. And optimism is one of my biggest words I use for everything, because you can't really be thinking, oh, I'm going to fail today, what I'm going to do. You got to literally be optimistic, because you never know what that hope or what that little saying, I can do this, can do. It pushes that brave inner light you have inside to actually make it happen. For instance, I thought I wasn't going to get an apartment. Lord Jesus, I didn't think I was going to have, I got so scared because I was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's going to be a long process. It's going to be a long process, but I keep saying I'm an optimistic person, but in that moment, I felt like I wasn't. And as soon as I came back into thinking, just be optimistic, I got my dream apartment, and it was less than what I expected. And I was just saying to myself, you can't talk down, and you cannot be brave in this world. You have to be like a lion, because they will eat you up. And I'm not going to let nobody eat me up in this country. I'll eat them back. Because sometimes it can be a hard place. And also to be brave is to be your own person. Show the world what you are made of, especially since I sometimes can be confused with other different countries in the Caribbean. Yeah. It's like the first thing people say, oh, you must be Jamaican, or you must be from Trinidad, or you must be from Barbados. But no, I'm from Antigua. We may sound alike, but we definitely don't talk alike. We have different cultures, and we have different things in our country that make us brave. We may not be like the fastest runner in the world. We may not be the jerk chicken, whatever y'all know. We may not be the curry chicken, but we are brave people, and we come from a little tiny island. Maybe the whole of Manhattan is Antigua, maybe not. But I'm one of those brave Antiguans that's gonna make us on the map, maybe even bigger than the map. But I'm that brave, optimistic person that one day I'll be at the top of my career. Almost getting there slowly, but I'm very optimistic that it will happen.
Yeah. Amazing. I'd love to hear like one or two other definitions or examples of bravery. Who wants to share what bravery means to them? And an example from your life or someone you know. There's no wrong answer. That's the cool part. It could be anything you want. And you can come, or actually you can just, I think, speak it out. You don't have to come up. It's very meta because it's brave to share what it means to be brave.
Share, because what Yessi was saying earlier resonated with me a lot about going to a therapist. Obviously, I'm very biased because I am a therapist. But I think it's extremely of you are doing right now is to delve into your past and to look at it with like the clear perspective of a little bit, not that any of you guys are old, a little bit of an older woman, and seeing that child and seeing what that child went through and the pain that that child went through. That is so incredibly brave. So just like looking into your past with clear eyes, naming what was abusive, and saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be not an abusive person. I'm going to be this type of mother or whatever. So yeah, I guess delving into your past is brave. That's my definition.
And what's your name?
Loretta.
Yeah, Loretta. Thank you. Thank you. How about one other definition of bravery? This is really inspiring. The runners were brave today, yes.
Just a word.
Love it.
It's like, do it, perhaps you are scared.
Yeah.
It's not, some people think that brave is different to the scary, but it's do it, perhaps you are scared.
Yes, do it even when you're scared. You're like, oh my God, this is the scariest thing, and I'm doing it anyways.
Yeah.
Yes, I love. And what's your name?
Sara Luna.
One more time.
Sara Luna.
Sara Luna. Thank you. All right, beautiful. Thank you. I think we have one more question, and then we're going to open it up if people have questions they want to ask. So the final question is a celebration. Always great to end on that note. So we want to talk about parts of the immigrant identity that you feel like you most celebrate. There's hundreds of parts of your immigrant identity, right? But what is one example, one part that you feel like you really celebrate, and in what ways? Like, what's an example? Yeah. So one piece that you like to celebrate, and then the second piece was, is there another part of your immigrant identity that you're kind of curious about and maybe want to celebrate or explore even more? So you can kind of take it either way. And we'll start with Allyssa. You got the mic. Yeah.
Celebration. Well, we all know Caribbean people is known for Carnival.
Oh gosh.
And
Please share about you being in it.
yes.
Please, please. It's so amazing.
I would say for the past couple of years, I've never been to Carnival because I always left Antigua and come to the United States and spend the summer with my father. So I can really say I didn't really enjoy growing up because as soon as I finished school, say I finished school Friday, my mother put me on the flight Monday. Literally, she would not let me get one piece of Carnival. So I flew back this year. And I took part in Carnival, all the feathers, all the diamonds, everything you can think of. But I must say that was a hot day. But it's a very nice experience, and I would say anybody who knows Carnival, it's lovely. Like you see the costumes, you see all the feathers, you see all the diamonds. I was decked from head to toe, and that feather wing was so heavy. Oh my goodness. It was so heavy on my back. I feel like we're 10 pounds, even more. It's just the way how we express ourselves, because we dance a lot. And I came up here and I diverted and I learned majorette dance. And to go back home and go back to what I know, it felt like I had all my bones in my body were just shaking to death. It felt like my bones were shaking with the music because that's what I know. And another celebration we do a lot is independence, because we were once colonized by British, so we were owned by the Queen Elizabeth. And we just celebrated 41 years since we are now independent country. So we have it on the 1st of November, and we use our national dish, which is gonna sound weird, but it's called pepper pot and fungi. Oh, I love it. Grandmother wish she was here so she could make it for me. So we would do that, or we would have dukkana and chop up and saltfish. Oh, Lord, wish I could make it. I can make it, but I'm so lazy right now. But it's those celebrations where we most appreciate our country. Like you being on your own and you showing the world what your country's made of. And it's not the Labor Day that y'all see in Brooklyn, no offense, and not the little carnival y'all see in Miami. It's so much more to that. Yes, I didn't get a chance to go to Miami because I didn't want to do another feather situation. But it's really those type of things that show you how your country has its own identity and the celebration, that's the meaning behind it. Because now looking back at it, it's to show how we were once, like, according to my grandfather, my grandma, I think we were once slaveries in Antigua, and Carnival is used to celebrate that slavery was already ended. So we celebrate in different ways, because when Carnival opens, they will have like a speaking about how it started, and you'll see different type of music we play. Like we play steel pan. I learned that too. I almost learned everything. Then we will have like people dressed in our national clothes, and we walking on sticks. I don't know what they're called, but we was walk on like tall sticks and walk around, and they would just have different type of things to pinpoint what makes our country special. And those are two major celebrations that everybody mostly knows about in the Caribbean and in Antigua. What was the other question again?
And that's amazing, first of all. And is there any part of your immigrant identity that you're like, I'm curious about this. I want to explore this more, whether that's learning how to cook some of those dishes or anything else that comes to mind?
That's a really good question. Come again?
You can just plant the seed and you can think about it, and or no pressure to answer.
Well, not really. I don't really know, because I think we learn history back home, even though I was bad at history, but we learn history back home, and it basically tells us more about our country. But the only thing I would personally be more like, want to know about is my great-great-grandmother, I think, if that's how it goes. Yeah. My grandmother's mother. She was a slave and she came from Africa. That's all they know. Nobody know anything else but that, and she spoke French. I don't know what part of Africa she came from.
Western part of Africa speaks French.
So most likely. So, and I did learn French in school, but I still would like to know where that comes from, because they came from Africa, but yes, so we were colonized by the British. So how did Antigua come about? I know it was the history, but I don't know that side of my family. And then my dad is mixed, and I don't know. All I know, I was here, and I'm mixed with some other country. So I just really want to know, but I'm scared to know. Not because that I'm going to be mixed with something else, but I mostly want to know why she left Africa to come to Antigua. Why did she get on the boat? Why didn't she just stay in Africa? What it would be like if I was from Africa. Well, we are African Americans already, but what would it be like to be in that side of the world that everybody is so scared to go to? But I'm not scared, because it's a beautiful country. It's one of the most richest countries, or one of the richest continents in the world for what they provide. And I think I'm eventually look into it, but I always keep picking my grandmother's brain until she can figure it out, because what she's telling me is one come from Africa, the other ones come from London, and my dad comes from some part in the Europe. I don't know, but I'm more trying to focus on my grandmother. Mother.
Right. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Awesome.
You're welcome.
And who else? Tenzin. Cool.
The most beautiful part of my culture, my identity would be our language. So I speak Tibetan language. That's my first language. And so just to give an example, how we would say hello is like we say Tashi Delek. And yes. So we say Tashi Delek. Tashi means like good things happen to you. And Delek means you're in excellent health. Like that's how we greet people.
Can we start doing that? Good morning. Good things are happening to you, and you're in excellent health. That's awesome. So New York.
Yeah. So that's like Tashi Delek, like for us. And I would say language in general is like that's such a beautiful language, and we have like such like like scholars, like very like ancient scholars, they have written a bunch of like volumes of poems, and I love reading them. When I was in ninth grade, that's one of our part of, we have to study that in our Tibetan class, and I just like love it. You can memorize if you want to, but I just memorize a bunch, and then like just like I've never thought I would love Tibetan that much. You know, you learn the language, you're just like that. But then, like when you're studying that, like for me, when I was like reading those like poems, it was like so beautiful. So I don't remember the exact words, but I'm just gonna give you like a one poem that really resonated with me, like one paragraph. So this scholar, he wrote about how precious our life is. So I'm going to give an example. He gave 3 things. He talks about ocean, like how we all know how big an ocean is. And now think about a turtle. And then we have a ring, like a circle ring. So in his example, he goes, there's this big ocean, and you have a turtle who pops his head out of the ocean once every 1,000 years. And then you have a ring, there's only one ring in the ocean that just like floats around. So the probability is getting a human life, or like how precious our human life is, the time the turtle pops his head out, like every 1,000 years, the ring like goes on his head. So now we know like the probability is so low, like less than 0.001%, right? But that's how we get our human life. That's the probability of getting a human life. So it's so precious. And I just want to tell everyone like who's here, like we are all born as human being, and then like it's so precious that we went past this like probability to become a human. So like I just like be grateful like about being a human, and just like do good things, right? And because we believe in reincarnation, and like human is like on the top of reincarnation, because if I'm not nice, maybe next life I'm a mosquito, right? Like we don't know. So but yeah, that's what I can think about. Thank you.
I think one aspect of my immigrant identity is that I appreciate is my ability to adapt easily, and that's because I was forced to adapt, like many of you. And one image I have that it's just I always have, especially when I'm about to face uncertainty. Or during the time that I'm facing uncertainty, is right before we were about to cross the border from Tijuana to San Diego. We had to go downhill, and I could only see the lights on the other side. And I don't know if you ever been in Bay Ridge, and if you kind of look to the other side on the Staten Island side, that's exactly how it looks. And as a kid, I remember just feeling butterflies in my stomach of the unknown. And my mom just kept telling us, okay, hurry up, we have to walk fast because somebody is waiting for us at the end. And I took that one last glimpse of the other side, literally of the other side, which Latinos, we call the U.S. el otro lado, like the other side. And so at that one last glimpse, I was like, okay, here we go. Whatever it is, like that's it. And I think from that point on, as immigrants, and I don't know if it's just me, but you kind of learn to have this dual identity, where I am Mexican, but then I'm also the girl that grew up in Bay Ridge. And this feels home, but Mexico also feels like home. And when I'm here, it's like, that's home. When I'm there, it's like, okay, when are we going back? Or I miss this about Brooklyn. Yeah. So you learn to have this dual identity, binational identity. And in my case, it kind of, I was, forced to adapt to a language, to a culture, to going back to what you mentioned about romanticizing, being an immigrant. Yeah. I think oftentimes we also romanticize a lot of the reunification with children and parents. So my parents had we're here in the U.S. and then my mom went to pick us up to bring us, and I was probably resentful of her that I had a very hard time calling her mom. I used to call her hey you. So again, we go back to how we had, I had to adapt to this family that I didn't have for 2 years, to this new apartment, a small apartment compared to the house I had back home, not being with my grandmother, who I was very attached to, going to school and not being able to see my friends who I had seen since kindergarten. All these different changes, and you're just forced to adapt. And I think that those things kind of like stuck with me as an adult. Everywhere I go, whatever I do, I just, it's very easy for me to adapt. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. What part or parts of your immigrant identity do you feel like you most celebrate? And then the kind of flip side is also, are there any parts that you're curious about exploring more? So you could do either, both.
Yeah, so I am Mexican, and I think it's just recently that I sort of started learning a little bit more about my culture and identifying with it. And so one of the things that I'm super, super proud of is just our food, our spices. Just, it's so rich in culture, and the way that even though I'm on this side of the world, I'm still able to visit spaces where that is something that they're still pushing with intention, whether it's going down the street to get tacos, or going to a restaurant where they're, specialize in mole. Just those are some of the things that I am so happy to be part of, to connect with. And I think something that I also want to continue to dive deeper into is sort of similarly what you were sharing earlier, is sort of my ancestors and their journeys and their lives. My mom's side of my grandparents from my mother's side died very early, and so that's sort of history that I don't really know about, but I think just connecting with myself and sort of my lineage is really important, that I would want to continue to dive deep into. There's just a lot of wisdom in there. And also reuniting with my grandparents from my dad's side. The relationship was very flimsy because of a lot of things. But when I had the opportunity to go back home to Mexico, just being held by your current parents, like your grandma cooking for you, was something so foreign to me. But it is something that I want to continue to cultivate, that relationship with them. And so I think learning more about them, I remember we were sitting in a couch and she like brought out the photo album, and like we were just looking at pictures from my parents' early years of dating. And so it was really weird, but also really cool, just to see them as like other like humans, like my parents that were dating. I don't know, it's so weird. Anyways, but yeah, I think just very similarly going back to learning more about my ancestors and the lineage and the wisdom that they hold. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so now we have a few minutes to turn it over to you all. And here's your menu. You can ask a question. You can shout out if there's something that somebody said that really spoke to you, resonated with you. You can just, give an acknowledgement, a shout out for that. And then the third thing on the menu, I think I just have food on my mind now. Third, the dessert, is if there's something that you want to share about your own journey or literally just anything that is speaking to your spirit. So we have a few minutes to open it up. So who wants to start? Sure, how about Michelle, right?
Yeah.
Is it Michelle? You can, you're welcome to come up or you can just, do from there.
Speak well. Thank you so much for sharing. So my name is Michelle, I'm from Mexico. I've been here for just a couple of months. So my question is, do you feel like for those of you who have been who have had the opportunity to go back to your countries of origin, or just being with your communities here, like in New York, do you feel like your self-identity changes or continues to develop, whether you're there or you're here? Like, for example, for me, has been shocking, or not shocking, just I'm still learning of how people here maybe classify me just as Latina, and what does that mean for them or for me? Or I don't know, how friends who are here also and they're from Nigeria or Zimbabwe, and people see them here and they're oh, African American or black, how maybe there are some other labels of identity here in the US. There doesn't mean that it's that, it's just maybe for aim or different for people who are not from here. So that's just the context of if you feel your identity still develops here or there, or how does that change?
Great question.
Okay, I'll answer that question. When I'm here, as soon as I start talking in my accent, the first thing people say, if I'm from Jamaica, we speak two different ways, two different language in two different dialect. And it kind of feels as if we're always labeled as a Jamaican or the most popular Caribbean country that you know as soon as you open your mouth. Whereas I'm back home, you're just Antiguan, you're yourself. Everybody understands you from you talking dialect to talking standard English, but when you home, we don't even talk standard English. And it feels weird when I actually went home last year. She actually looked over to my mom like, what in the world are you saying over there? And she talking, even though I understand, I'm just saying to her, don't you just speak natural, just talk regular for once? She's like, that's who I am. I'm not going to change who I am for nobody. And back home, Auntie, we don't speak standard English that much. It's our identity is our language and how we can change different words and mean the same thing. So I think that answered your question, right? Yeah. So I would say we don't really have I don't really have an identity up here because I'm really labeled as a Jamaican or another Caribbean country. But when I'm home, I know who I am, and I'm an Antiguan.
Great answer.
The first time I went back to Mexico, it was obviously a dream come true. And the first thing that I guess shocked me was that for so many years that here in the U.S. you just see a mix of different cultures, different skin tones. And when I got off the airport, I got to see everyone that looked kind of like me, brown. And that alone just made me feel like, oh, wow, I actually belong here. I am from here, duh. And every time I go back, I feel like it kind of reinforces my Mexicanness. So I come back and so every time we go, we explore a different state, a different city. And I come back feeling like, oh, wow, I'm actually proud of where I come from, of my roots. So I don't know if it answers your question, but I definitely feel more Mexican. Yeah, it enforces my Mexicanness every time I go there. And I just love that feeling. And I embrace it, I guess, because I couldn't travel for so many years. So I embrace it a lot.
Beautiful. Beautiful question, and welcome, Michelle. Welcome. Okay, who else has a question or a shout out or a share?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Councilmember Rita Joseph. It's here to see you. I like to observe. Your story is amazing, similar to mine. I moved here with my grandparents when I was a year and a half old from Haiti. So our immigrant journey is a little different because a year and a half, this is where I acquired my language. This is where I became who I was supposed to be. So I grew up with my grandparents in Ditmas Park. So my experience is a little different, but nevertheless, I was an educator for 22 years. So a lot of them, and I was an ENL coordinator. So all of my students teaching them new languages and celebrating their cultures, not just tolerating them. You know, you tolerate people, but celebrating your cultures. So don't let anyone tolerate who you are, but let them celebrate who you are. And the fact that I sit on the immigration committee in the council, we will continue to uplift immigrants in this community, giving them language access, making sure that they have all the tools they need in their toolkits. From the time you were there, those things probably did not exist. But we in the council are making sure you have the next generation of immigrants, undocumented immigrants, are also supported. I chair the Committee on Education in the New York City Council, and my first hearing in the New York City Council was on ENL students during COVID-19. What did the city do with them? A lot of them went unreported, missing. And at one point they were calling ACS on these young people, and I had to step in and intervene, and I said, it's not that they didn't want to come to school, but language was the barrier. And I've always told my students, don't let that second language is your superpower. It's not a deficiency, it's a superpower. So I'm here today to celebrate you, to support you. And you know mine, I like to sit in the back and observe. I don't like the fanfare. Everybody knows that's the type of council member I am. But I'm here to celebrate you. Thank you for all that you do now that you're here. You're going to contribute to this fabric, this amazing fabric of this immigrant community that we serve in New York City. And it's an honor and a pleasure to serve each and every one of you in the council.
Wow, thank you, council member, for being here and being part of our community. It's an honor. We appreciate it and welcome. All right. How about one more question, share, or shout out? I see some half hands over here. I'm just going to point in this direction and go for it.
Hi, everyone. I'll speak loud as well. My name is Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
From Michigan. Yeah, I think a couple things. I just wanted something that really resonated, and also kind of want to answer the question like what brave means to me. And it like all ties together. Like what the councilwoman was saying of, like I've been thinking about how can I support, how can I help, how can I, yeah. I went to like a retreat recently, and we kind of meditated one day on this concept of like being the horse, like the horse being this powerful animal that carries others and that gets them to their destination, and it's strong, but it's caring. And Councilwoman is doing that in the back, helping to raise other people's voices. And I heard what is Allyssa, right? Mm-hmm. Allyssa mentioned in her story of becoming a cook and kind of stepping into that identity, and how there's one person in your life that's encouraged you to sign up for that chef competition and that believed in you. And so to me, my definition, or one of my definitions of bravery is to join the solo dancer. There's this like really beautiful YouTube video of this one guy that's standing alone dancing at a concert, and he's just alone for like a minute, like for 45 seconds, just dancing. Everyone's looking at him. He's like weird. And then one person gets up and starts dancing with him and just like loving life and just enjoying it. And then 10 seconds go by, a third, a fourth, and then all the people are there and everyone's supporting. So I guess for me, like how I want to step into bravery this year is like, how do I identify those situations where I can be that voice to lift somebody else up and to make them believe in themselves. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Beautiful. So I'm going to invite Priya up in just a moment to say hello to everyone. But before that, first, I just want to give a huge thank you to everybody for building this container of love and support together. It was so beautiful. So thank you, everyone. Give it up. thank you to our beautiful, amazing, inspiring panelists. Seriously, all of you were just another level. So open, so generous with what you're sharing, and just real and inspirational. So it's an honor to know all of you, and so appreciative that you shared with us today. So let's give it up for the panelists. And we have the space for a little longer, so I want to give a huge shout out to Chloe's Corner and Ashley, who's hosting us today. Yeah, and a shout out to Anthony, who's recording this amazing conversation. And so I hope that you stay and hang out. We have some fun little activities. We have a wall with some sticky notes, and the idea is it's these little messages of hope or joy or inspiration, and they're all anonymous. So before you leave, the invitation is that you take one and then you leave one. So you'll go home with a note from who knows who wrote it, right? And then you get to leave one. It can be a quote, it can be whatever you want. So that's a little community give and take. And we also have some coffee and some pastries. And the second invitation is that you talk to someone who you didn't come with today. So that's brave, right? Like starting a conversation with I was gonna say stranger, but we're all friends here now. But just to help you with that, I put a few little icebreaker questions on tables there in the bright colored pieces of paper, if you just want something to talk about. So with that, I'll invite up Priya. Priya is the chair of our board of directors. She's my boss. So welcome, Priya. You can either come up or you can.
Yeah, I'll just stand over
cool.
here. And I have a loud voice, unfortunately, for all of you. Oh, take a mic anyway. All right.
Take a mic.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. After this, I'm getting on the train to Long Island to go hang out with my parents. We immigrated here when I was 5 years old, and I feel like I just have so many thoughts swimming in my head about just being really grateful for the decision that they made in our lives, but also the things that they had to overcome and the things that I'm processing that I had to overcome, because the world is not made for us, but we are making it to suit us. And I think that there's an incredible journey there. So thank you so much. This event is kicking off the month of giving in November. So Giving Tuesdays at the end of the month. So I think, Mabel, are you the person that if you're interested in donating to the Brave House and donating to this community, that we will start collecting those donations. There's some great palm cards with QR codes. So even if you can't do that today, but you have a community that you are able to engage with to help grow the Brave House and their mission. I started working with the Brave House about 2 years ago, and I edit grants, and it's amazing to just see how big this community has grown, not only in volume, but just in breadth of services. And I think that what's really amazing, oh my God, thank you, Vanna. So if you do give today, you'll leave with a beautiful tote bag or a mug. This is the first time I'm seeing it. So every time you drink your coffee or your tea or your matcha, whatever you're drinking, you can think about the Brave House and how you're giving back to this community. So you can talk to me, talk to Mabel, talk to anyone here. But thank you so much for coming here today and supporting this community. And hopefully we'll see you again at the next event.
And the artwork on the mugs and the tote bags were made by Chumi, who's on our advisory board, and she's Paraguayan American. So you're also supporting some immigrant art as you're carrying those around with you. So that's pretty much it. Amazing. So thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day.